All right, so today we're going to talk about rational expressions and using them in applications. So we have plenty of examples on the notes today, so I'm going to pick 3 of them to do, and then you will have to do the rest of them for homework. So I'll kind of talk about them all so we kind of know how to set them all up. So for 1 and 2, since they're wanting the area of a rectangle, remember our formula for the area of a rectangle is just length times width. So essentially I'm just having to multiply these 2 expressions together. And since I want to simplify, I'll probably factor first and cancel as much as I can before I multiply. But 3, I would like to do 3 because it doesn't have a picture with it. So it says if the area of a rectangular garden is a squared over b minus b and the length is a over b plus 1, find an expression to represent the width of the garden. So remember for our garden, since they said it was a rectangular garden, I'll go ahead and draw it. And they told us that the area was a squared over b minus b. And the length is a over b plus 1. We have to find the width. So remember to find the area of a rectangle. We just got done saying that it was length times width. So I know if I take a over b plus 1 times the width, I would have to have that equal this area. So basically to undo this, I'm going to take the area, which is a squared over b minus b, and I'm going to divide that by my length of a over b plus 1. So now before I can do any division, I have to combine my fractions. So I have to, in the numerator, if I write this over 1, I'd have to get a common denominator, and that would be a b. So I have to multiply by b over b. So that would give me a squared minus b squared over b. And then in the denominator, I have to get a common denominator of b. So I'd have to multiply this by b over b. So that gives me a plus b over b. So now I'm going to flip this bottom fraction over so I can multiply. And then to be able to simplify this, I'm going to have to factor this numerator. So a squared minus b squared would become a minus b times a plus b. And then this other one, I'm just going to put this a plus b in the denominator in parentheses. And so looking at this, I know I can cancel the a plus b's, and then I can cancel the b's this way. So my answer would just be a minus b. All right, so for 4, we want to find an expression to represent the area of a triangle. To find the area of a triangle, we would just have to take 1/2 base times height. For 5, I want to do 5. It says find an expression to represent the volume of the rectangular prism shown below. So remember to find the volume of a prism. My formula for volume is length times width times height. So basically I have to multiply my length and my width and my height together. So to do this problem, I'd have my 18x squared over 45x squared minus 18x times my width, which is x squared plus 14x plus 48 over 36 minus x squared times my height, which is 5x squared minus 32x plus 12 all over 10x cubed. So before I can reduce anything or anything like that, I'm going to have to factor everything. So in this first problem, I can't factor anything in the numerator, so that will just stay 18x squared But in this denominator, 45x squared minus 18x both have a 9x in common. So I will factor out a 9x. And 45 divided by 9 gives me 5. X squared divided by x is x. Minus, and then 18 divided by 9 is 2. And x divided by x, there would be no x's left. So then for this middle one, I would have to diamond. So I'm going to diamond over here since I have room. So I would have, looking for two numbers that multiply to be 48, but add to be 14. That would be 6 and 8. So I get x plus 6 and x plus 8. This denominator, because it's written backwards, I like my x squared to be first. I'm going to factor out a -1 first. And so then that would give me x squared minus 36. And so now I can factor the x squared minus 36 into x minus 6 and x plus 6. So I'll go ahead and do that. And then for this last term, for the numerator, I'm going to have to do a diamond again. So I'll have to take 5 times 12. That gives me 60, and I need it to add to be -32. So my factors would be -30 and -2. So then I'm going to go ahead and do the grouping part down here. So I have 5x squared minus 30x minus 2x plus 12. So the first two terms I can factor out a 5x, and I'm left with x minus 6. The last two terms I could factor out a -2, so I'm left with x minus 6. So I get x minus 6 times 5x minus 2. So that's going to be my numerator, x minus 6 times 5x minus 2. And then the denominator would just be the 10x cubed, because there's nothing to factor really there. And so now I look and see, what can I cancel out? What can I reduce by? So I'm noticing I have a 5x minus 2 here and a 5x minus 2, so those would cancel. The x plus 6 and the x plus 6 would cancel. The x minus 6 and the x minus 6 would cancel. 9 goes into 18 2 times. And this x would go into that x squared, and there'd just be an x left. 2 and 10 would reduce, and then this x would cancel with one of those, so there'd be an x squared there. All right, so this is getting a little messy, so I'm going to go ahead and combine what I can. So in the numerator, it looks like I'm just left with the x plus 8. And then in the denominator, I have this -1 and the 5x squared, so that would give me a -5x squared. And that would be my answer. For number 6, they're talking about volume again, and they told us this time what the volume is, and we have to find the height. So I'd have to multiply these two together first, and then take 12x plus 16 divided by that. For 7, they're looking for the perimeter, so I have to add up all of my sides. Remember that if this side is 15 plus x plus 5, that side would be 15 over x plus 5. And then these two sides would be the same, so I can add them all up. 8 would be another perimeter problem, so another similar type problem. So I'll have to get common denominators to be able to add them together first before I can reduce anything. 9, oh, this is a trapezoid, so let's do this one. So we have write an expression to represent the area of the trapezoid below. So remember, our formula for the area of a trapezoid is 1/2 times the height times base 1 plus base 2. So in our problem, I have 1/2 times the height, which would be this distance. So that would be my 12x over x squared minus 2x minus 35. And then times, and I have to add the two bases together. So I'm going to have the x plus 3 over x plus x plus 9 over 2x. So I know I'm going to have to get a common denominator inside the parentheses to be able to combine those together. So I'm going to leave the 1/2 times 12x over x squared minus 2x minus 35 alone on the outside of the parentheses and just worry about what's going on inside the parentheses. So my common denominator, if I look at between x and 2x, I know is going to have to be a 2x. So I'm going to take this first fraction times 2 over 2. So I will distribute that 2, and that would give me a 2x plus 6, and then I have plus x plus 9. All right, so I can combine my like terms inside the parentheses here. So in this numerator, 2x plus x would give me a 3x, and then 6 plus 9 would give me 15. So now I can factor, so I can reduce things. So I'll have 1/2 in the front. I have 12x in my numerator, so x squared minus 2x minus 35 if I diamond that. So I'm looking for factors of negative 35 that add up to be -2. I get -7 and 5. So I get x minus 7 times x plus 5. And then in the parentheses here, the 3x plus 15, I could take out a 3, and I'd be left with x plus 5. And then the denominator, I'd have a 2x. So now if I reduce or cancel, I can cancel the x plus 5s. I could cancel this x with this x. 2 goes into 12, there'd be a 6 left over. And then 2 goes into 6, and there'd be a 3 left over. And I think that's all I can reduce. So in the numerator, I'm left with 1 times 3 times 3. So that would give me a 9. And then in the denominator, it looks like I'm just left with the x minus 7. And then 10 wants a surface area. So I would have to find the area of all of the surfaces. So the front, the back, the top, the bottom, the left side, and the right side. And then just add them all up. So your homework is going to be to complete the rest of the problems on this set of notes.